here. Peter Katz, so many incredible people that have helped get to this moment. So I wanted to alert you guys of sort of a sad situation, and that is that there's actually another party happening right now. It's in Oslo. There's a girl doing gastronomy, molecular gastronomy cocktails. The DJ is a penguin. They have a DJ, we don't have a DJ. The DJ is a penguin. He's an emperor penguin, and his name is DJ Polar Bear. You're not there. There is no way that you can get there in time. How does that make you feel? This is where the fear of missing out comes from, right? The danger of forces like FOMO are not only in the message we're told that we can do, be, and experience everything, it's the lie that we're told that it's actually possible to, right? So FOMO's core messages, or FOMO's core FOMO's core messages, so raise your hands if you can relate to any of these feelings. I am not, right there, I am not doing enough. I don't have enough. I am not enough. Right? Every moment of your existence is spent doing one thing to a literal infinity of other things, no matter what you choose. FOMO has also fed us a lie about what the good life is, because messages like FOMO tell us that success and well-being, which are actually the two elements of joy, if you actually look up the definition of joy in the dictionary, it talks about this beautiful balance of well-being and success. And messages like FOMO tell us that success and well-being look one way: flawless, right? Popular and expensive. Instagram, anyone? Right? And never complete. So we want to have a conversation. We can't talk about the opposing force. We can't talk about JOMO without talking about the opposing force, which is FOMO, of course. And many of you may not have heard of JOMO before. I'm hoping that by now you have heard of it. I wanted to share sort of a joyful thing that my friend Jess Piriam, who we're going to meet in a minute, sent to me. And I have one message to say, which is, no FOMO, guys. Like, fuck FOMO. No more FOMO. This made me feel really good to get in the mail. This is awesome. Jess saw it. She wrote to me. She said, "Dear Christina, I saw this immediately, thought of you, all the exciting things happening with JOMO this year." Jess, one sentence, took her probably a couple of minutes, brought me so much joy. Right? And Jess is here with us, and she'll be sharing her perspective in a little bit as a digital sociologist and her perspective on why talking about how to live joyfully with technology is important. So tonight and through the podcast, I want to help you to find success and well-being on your own terms and synthesize them into a joy that is profoundly and uniquely and humanly your own. Not some other voice telling you what it looks like, not some other message telling you that well-being or success looks a particular way, but really your own joy. So many of you do know me, but some of you do not. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about my story and how I came to be here today. I'm from Vancouver. I'm about to actually travel back to the West Coast on Thursday. It's a big week. Yes, very exciting. And I traveled from Vancouver to Toronto, moved from Vancouver to Toronto when I was pregnant with Thomas, our second child, who's upstairs. And in one fell swoop, basically 90% of my relationships all of a sudden became mediated in some way by technology, because I couldn't physically be present with my loved ones. They were no longer there. And as I was home with kids, and that can be a very isolating experience for those of you who have been stay-at-home parents, and because I was a student of media and communication studies, I was pretty cued into the ways in which I was relating to technology for good and for ill. And so I started a habit or a practice. My grandmother was a newspaper clipper. Do people even know what I'm talking about? Okay, she would read the newspaper and she would physically clip out articles, and she would save them for the next time she saw someone. Sometimes she'd send them in the mail. But when I saw my grandma, I could almost always expect to get a newspaper clipping from her. And I started to become a newspaper clipper. I was noticing when email sort of started to take over our lives, not when it first started, but when it started to really encroach on life, I started to clip out articles I would find in places like the Globe and Mail, or I'd even read them online and print them out. And I amassed this, I'm a weirdo, but I amassed this physical accordion folder of articles about what was happening to individuals and to culture. And at the same time, like I mentioned previously, I was having this sort of discomfort with my relationship with technology because I was leaning into it very heavily. Again, because I had people far away. I had made some wonderful friends who are in the room in Toronto, of course, but there was this imbalance of how much I was using technology. And so slowly over time, I decided, I had this niggling idea of giving up the internet for what I thought would be a year. When I talked to my parents at home, they were not too excited about that idea, not being able to see photos of their grandchildren for 365 days. So we kind of roped it back to a month. And what I really wanted to figure out is how it would shape me and how it would affect my relationships with my husband and with my kids and with my neighbors and even my creative practices. Would it create space for me to put the time and effort into the writing and creative work that I wanted to do that had really been sidelined? So it takes some preparation. I will tell you, you cannot have Google Maps anymore. You have to physically get a map book. There is preparations that must be made. You got to tell people this is going to happen. Some people are like, cool, see you next month. Like, they just did not, right? There's if you're not online, it's you're nothing to, you're nothing to me. Cool, let's check it later. But yeah, so preparations were made and I disconnected for 31 days. And that led to the experience of writing a number of essays off of that and then to my book, The Joy of Missing Out, which came out 4 years ago. And that has made me, along with my friend David Sachs, who's in the room, who wrote The Revenge of Analog, we're kind of like digital well-being pioneers. That's what we are. I'm a digital well-being pioneer. Thank you very much. But digital well-being is a really new space because when we were having the conversation 4 years ago around digital and how to live well with digital, nobody wanted to have a conversation around addiction. No one wanted to talk about how we may, in fact, have a compulsive habit forming around the way we used our devices. And now it's everyone just nods their heads, right? There's sort of this, at least when I have conversations with people, we don't need to explain it anymore. We know that something's wrong. So that's what brought me to the niggling idea of having the podcast. But I struggled with the podcast because it's a podcast. It's consumed online. I don't want to create more online content. What do I do with this? But what brought me to really deciding to make this project the next big project I would do in my work is because I explored other ideas. And I tried to figure out what products or solutions might help people, developing a course, these types of things. And what I realized, talking in lots of places, with people in the C-suite, with middle managers, with entrepreneurs, with creatives, is that every individual person has unique professional and personal demands on their lives. And there is no one-size-fits-all solution to this problem of how we live well and I would say how we live joyfully with technology. We need to find our own way. Demands that Erin has in terms of responding to people and the speed and pace of that versus another person whose work is largely offline, there aren't the same solutions for those two people. So that's where we are today. And I get asked in interviews, which I've done a lot of interviews, a lot of different places, and they always want to know. You can probably guess. Can you guess? What are the things people ask me? What do you think? Go, give me a question.
Oh, work-life balance.
Work-life balance. Sure, good. Okay, give me two more. What other questions do you think people ask?
How to use a cell phone.
Okay, yeah, right. I do get that. They're like, isn't it ironic that we found you on the internet? I'm like, yeah, it's ironic. But I don't know, okay.
How do you use technology?
Right, how do I use technology? And that's a totally fair question. Of course I should be asked that question. But mostly what people want to know is, what are your top 3 tips? Right? We live in the age of the listicle. And if you don't know what a listicle is, it is a list. It is an article. It is a listicle. Right? Everyone wants a listicle. It's clickable. Right? And you know it because you clicked on one probably today. Right? It's like, what are your... I'm reading, yeah, exactly. Like, what are your top 5 tips? What are your top 3 tips? And I can give you, and I can rattle off the tips, and I'll talk about, how it's good to have an analog, clock beside your bed instead of waking up and reaching for your phone. And I'll talk about, how I think it's a really important and hard, but really important practice to have a day a week where you disconnect entirely from technology. You can call it a technology Sabbath, Shabbat, whatever you want to call it, a day where you are not the center of the universe. You remember the world keeps turning without you. I can talk about these different strategies for how to live better with technology, but ultimately you are going to have to find your own way. So, yeah, there's no silver bullet, my friends. My friend Cherry Rose Tan, who some of you know, is not here tonight. I was hoping she'd be here tonight, but I'm going to talk about her. So Cherry Rose Tan is a 3-time founder she's now in cryptocurrency, which you may or may not even know what that is, but it's a thing. And she is got an incredible story of personal burnout, and even more profound story about her brother's burnout and eventual passing from burnout. But Cherry Rose Tan, her mission now is to help founders. Put your hand up in this room right now if you're a founder, if you self-identify as a founder of a company, okay? Yeah, a lot of you. That's why I invited you. Founders. And her, specifically for technology founders who, especially if you receive VC funding, which Artery did, and some of you in this room have received, when you're trying to 10x or 100x an investment, the demands on you individually are astronomical. And her mission, Cherry Rose Tan's mission, is really to create a community of conversation around the founder story and actually being open and honest about mental health and how people are actually doing. And she said this thing, so I met her at Fireside Conference, which is this amazing conference that's for people in the tech space, and it's completely tech-free, which is wonderful. And I met Cherry, she spoke, and she said this incredible thing. She said, as founders, as entrepreneurs, we start with aliveness. We start with passion, right? Like, you could do something else. Like, you really could do something else. It would be easy. I'm looking over at Samira. You could do something easier, right? You could do something a lot easier than start a startup. We start with aliveness, we start with passion, but over time, she said, we learn fear, and we learn hustle, and we learn grind. And I just thought to myself, like, yep. Like, that's it. And you could translate that not just into the founder story, but into anything you're doing. Being a parent, right? What did you think when you wanted to have a kid? I'm looking at my friend Maria right here. Founder and mother, multi-founder, right? You start with aliveness. You start with passion. You have a vision for what you want that experience to be. And over time, you learn hustle. Please don't cry. And you learn fear. And you learn grind, right? So I had you guys do a little experiment, and I'm going to use my friend Asia's awesome example right here. I had you write down JOMO means, but we don't even need to worry about the JOMO thing. More of this, less of this. What do we want more of? Asia says, getting crafty. She also helped make this wall hanging. She's super crafty. Less of this, watching videos of other people getting crafty. Right? I just knocked mine down, but I'm going to share mine too. So I wrote, what should I do first, less or more?
More.
Okay. More of this. Playing Velcro ball. You don't even know what that is. Velcro ball, which is you got two paddles, they're made of Velcro. You throw a ball, it attaches to the Velcro. Okay. Playing more Velcro ball with Caleb, my youngest child. More rowing, more laughing. Thank you for laughing with me. Less of this stressing, my new favorite word, fretting. Less fretting. Less second guessing myself. Less unnecessary online time. In my grandmother's honor, I'm going to share a clipping with you all. Probably noticed it up here. So this is actually very cool because the Globe and Mail did this whole disconnect spread last month, which a friend of mine saved for me, like a clipper does, and passed it along. She thought I'd be really excited about it, which I was. A little not so excited they didn't talk to me, but also excited it existed. Okay, and this is the article I wanted to share with you. I'm only going to read the title and the subtitle, but it's called Reclaiming Your Time. You can't all see it, but it says Reclaiming Your Time. And the subtitle says, the easiest way to get off tech? Find something else to do and lean into it. That, my friends, is experiencing JOMO. That is what it is all about. It's finding the things that actually make you happy, that actually bring you joy, and then leaning into them. That's it. That's the answer, in my opinion. It's what I truly believe. I truly believe that we have to find the things that actually bring us more joy, and we need to lean hard into that thing. Whether it's a relationship, a hobby, you might adore your work, like that's okay. Like you can lean into that thing, that is okay. But you gotta find the thing that brings you that kind of joy. And this isn't something I made up, actually. I'd like to ground it in something. I keep looking over at my friend John O'Brien. We have a Jesuit father in the house, John O'Brien. Sorry to call you out, but I just love you. Father John O'Brien is here, and I'm sharing the reason why I know more and less works, the reason why I know moving towards joy and moving away from fear and the things that limit us and hold us down, the reason I know that works is because it's actually rooted in an age-old contemplative practice called the Examen, which was started centuries and centuries ago by Ignatius of Loyola. And the reason why I know it's so effective is it's because it's been renamed and repackaged by motivational psychologists and more motivational psychologists and endless lists of people, coaches. It's called the Towards and Away Matrix now in psychology. But the reason why I know it works is because it's, again, been repackaged and renamed so many times. And it's the one thing I've found that everyone, from members of the C-suite to middle managers to individuals at home, creatives, it's something that I have found that everyone can do, and it's super powerful. And this is how it works. At the end of each day, before you go to sleep, you ask yourself, I'm simplifying it, but this is what you do. You ask yourself at the end of each day, what today was most life-giving? And what was most life-taking? What was the thing that brought you most joy? What was the thing that enlivened you? We talked about aliveness before. What is the thing that made you feel most alive that day? The words that the Examen would use was, what brought you most consolation? And what brought you most desolation? The idea being, the belief being, that the more that we actually are mindful, I know that's a buzzword right now and it's starting to lose its meaning like all the good words in the world, but when we're mindful of the things that really bring us joy, when we actually call that into our awareness, then what do you think we're going to do? We're going to subconsciously or unconsciously, it doesn't even matter, move more towards the things that bring life, that bring joy, and move away from the things that take life and bring despair and hold us back. And I know that every single person in this room does not need to add another thing into their life. I know that you don't need another strategy. I know you don't have another half an hour. I know that you have no more time left. So this is something that you can do. You're not even adding anything in. All you're doing is moving in one direction. You're already doing it. Like in this moment, you're like, me, Velcro ball, note to self, play Velcro ball tomorrow for 3 minutes with Caleb. All right. And whatever, I won't be doing something else for that other 3 minutes, right? Like it's already happening. It's not something we need to add into our lives. It's just a trajectory. It's just a direction. So I want to wrap up because I really want to spend some quality time talking with Jess, and I'm very mindful that it's hot in here. It's a quote from Paulo Coelho. He says, and I found this recently, and it just made me so happy. You know when you like find a quote, you're like, yes, that thing, where have you been all my life? This is the quote: postpone joy, it will diminish. Postpone a problem, it will grow. I think we all know that we have a bit of a problem with our relationship with our phones and digital technology. It's okay. It's where we are, but we don't have to stay there, right? It's a problem. Let's not postpone it. Let's look at it. And I just want to pause for a second here because there are actually incredible people in this room doing some of this work to help us in that. Dr. Anna Lamanowska, where are you? There she is. So she runs something called the Digital Wellbeing Lab at the University of Toronto, which you probably didn't even know exists, but that's amazing. Artery. Because it's in Mississauga. I've been to that campus. That campus is amazing. It's so beautiful. Slima and Vlad, like I could cry tears. I will at this when this is over, because I'm tired. Your vision and mission for what you're doing through Artery, like it takes my breath away. Their whole mission is to reduce loneliness. Like try pitching that to a VC. Our mission is to reduce loneliness. Want to fund that? Right? This is the conversation they've had over and over, but they believe that gathering people in small spaces in neighborhoods is the most important work that they could give their lives to, and they are. So that's amazing. Christian Villamarin is not here, but he co-founded Flipped App, which is one of the leading digital wellness companies in Canada. So many beautiful people. Samira from Wellcalm. Like so many beautiful people that are trying to help us with these things. And it's not, I just want to make it as simple as possible. So I'm going to wrap up, but my definition of JOMO, because there's a few of them going around, my definition of JOMO actually came to me through an individual at a dinner party in my old house, and it was Michelle right there. And she said, you know, we're having this beautiful dinner in our literally vacant house. It was up for sale, it was staged, it was our last meal in that house. And Michelle said, you know, JOMO's like the joy of missing out on the right things. Yes, that's it, right? JOMO is the joy of missing out on the right things so that we can say yes to the other things. So I define JOMO as the joy of missing out on the right things, life-taking things like digital drain and comparison, loneliness, these things, so that we can make space for the life-giving things, right, that bring us peace, love, meaning, and joy, like this. Like, can I just tell you how much joy this brought me tonight? Mm-hmm. Like, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. It means a lot. So that's what the JOMO cast is all about. Signposts on the journey of digital well-being. We'll all live with technology for the rest of our lives, but we get to decide how. Thank you.